The Sports Source Saturday Kickoff is presented by Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville on Callahan Drive and by the Garza Law Firm.
They're last in the SEC in points per game. They're last in passing offense.
And I think sometimes they're just like confusingly bad. Like they have these bright spots and then they just have moments where you're just like, what is going on? Yes.
So if you're Tennessee, what should you be looking for? Who should you be rooting for?
So we all went over. I hope we're wrong.
This has a lot to do with how they might finish their 2025 class, so a few targets to watch down the stretch.
Don't go out like you did in the last bye week and lay an egg against Arkansas.
Floorboard, cram it, jam that sucker into the ground.
Good Saturday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. We're here to get you ready for Tennessee and Kentucky this evening. John Pennington, joined as always by VFL Kevin Simon, VFL Ollie Lane. Appreciate you guys being here. We are at Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive. And if you are looking for a Kia, let me tell you, folks, you're going to be wasting money if you go anywhere else, because Jake Bull and his team right down here, they will match any deal on a Kia from any dealer in the country. Hard to beat that. These guys can beat anybody, and you need to get down here and see them. If you don't and you buy a Kia, you're wasting cash. Trust me, I've bought 5 vehicles down here. Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive. All right, this segment, every week we call it What's the Story? And I think the big story this week, an open date week, has been, are the Vols going to make the playoffs? What do you think about the playoffs? Do you think there's a chance of the playoffs? I must have been asked that 10 times. So I think everybody's looking at the playoff thing. And before I ask you, can they make the playoffs? I think the answer is, yeah, they can. I want to ask you about coming off the open date and tying that to the playoff. Because the last time you had an open date, Tennessee came out, lost at Arkansas. Dylan Sampson said after the game they were kind of complacent, didn't handle the open date the way they should. Okay, now you've got a struggling Kentucky team you're up against. But out there a couple weeks down the road, you got Georgia, you got the playoff. How do you keep this team focused on this upcoming game as opposed to looking at what everybody else is talking about, the playoff, Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's the hardest challenge as a player, especially in a team that's at a level this high. It's super hard to kind of like not focus on the game that you think is a give me, and you got the big dogs waiting for you the next week. So, I mean, I think as a player, for me, what helped me a ton is just kind of like locking in and focusing and realizing, like, I know it's a lot of coach talk, but that next biggest game on your schedule is the biggest one, because the next one is that's something you really got to buy into as a player, and you just kind of focus yourself in on, all right, well, to get to the playoffs, to get to the Georgia game, well, I got to go through this opponent first, and it's the most important because it's the next thing I got to do. It's the next one on my schedule of things to do. And so that's kind of, you got to prioritize yourself, prioritize the way you view your season as just one at a time. Don't take it all in as, well, I got 12 games to go. It's like, no, you've got one game. You're only guaranteed one game every single week. So
you get 12 one-game seasons.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what Coach Heupel was echoing to the players. Say, hey, the next championship opportunity is Kentucky, because that's the next one on the schedule. So that's what he's harping day in, day out to the players. I think from my standpoint, it wasn't really hard for me, just because the process I had to go through, watching the tape, watching the film, through the week, I always wanted to perform at a high level. So I wanted to, for me to be able to perform at a high level, I had to prepare in the right way. So I had to know the team. I had to know, you know, the depth of the back and the tendencies off it, the back's tendencies, the quarterback's tendencies, you know, just like studying the tape, all right? On throws, does he lick his fingertips, you know, before he gets up there? Or does he like Joe would actually rub his hands on his towel a lot of times before he's through. So you're looking at those types of things, and then you're studying the little nuances of the offensive line. All right, when they're up on the ball, does that mean they're running? All right, there's usually, we say birds and rabbits, run, pass. There's usually somebody that's going to tip it. Usually it's the left tackle. You know what I'm saying? In terms of when his stance is narrow, bird, pass. Hey, when his stance is wider, all right, hey, rabbit, cheetah. We had a few things that we would say, you know, to let everybody know that, hey, it's probably a run coming at us. So it wasn't hard, it's hard for me personally, but I think my teammates had a harder time, you know, staying with it, as Ollie was saying.
Is it a concern that this team has? I mean, you could look at it two ways. One, Dylan Sampson came out and openly said we didn't handle it the right way. So they're not going to let that happen again. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it, the glass half empty way to look at it is, well, they've done it once. Why should I trust them that they're not going to be complacent again? Is it more worrying to you that this team already had an issue against Arkansas earlier this year, or they kind of took their eye off the ball, and that you had a team leader that said, this isn't us reading into it. He said, we took our eye off the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at it from that standpoint, I mean, they've already had one. They've had their eyes open. They've had the veil pulled from them. Yeah. They can see what happens when you, as Dylan Sampson said, go lackadaisical through a bye week. So I think it takes that worry off of me a little bit because they know that they did it and they understand how they did it and what caused them to be lackadaisical that week. So they know what not to do to not be that way. So,
well, let me quickly ask you this. We'll shift this back to the can they make the playoff thing. Can they make the playoff as they've been playing? Meaning, in SEC play, you're averaging 20 points per game in regulation. So take one of those Florida touchdowns out. That was overtime. 20 points a game in regulation. Your defense has been fantastic, keeping everybody under 20 points. Is that a recipe to win your last 5 games, including at Georgia? Or do they need to improve from where they are to make the playoff?
Well, I think obviously they're going to have to improve from where they are offensively. Now, can they still kind of eke out these wins and make the playoff? They could. You know, remember the old Ohio State team with Maurice Clarett? You know, they would just kind of win. You know, they kept winning, and they ended up beating Miami. But they could do it. But I mean, but is it likely that they make the playoff? But it'd be an early exit.
Yeah, to have that kind of a deal. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather take my percentages and let them fix the issues and trust it a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, just with how well the defense is, I could write home on the defense. Defense wins the championships. Yeah. I think they could do enough to get you there, but to make a real impact in the playoff spectrum once you get there, you got to improve some of these offensive issues.
All right, guys, very good. We've got a scouting report. 3 things you need to know about Kentucky. Jimmy Hines, take it away.
There are 3 things to know about Kentucky. First off, they've lost 36 of the last 39 games against Tennessee. And in the last 8 years, they've had 2 10-win seasons. Didn't matter. Tennessee beat them anyway. Since 1985, Tennessee has won a 4 overtime game against Kentucky. They've won with 2 goal line stands. They've won 5 games by a field goal or less. And starting in the 1990s, Tennessee had a 5-game stretch in which it scored at least 56 points against Kentucky. Secondly, Kentucky's defense has imploded. Now, they played pretty well against Georgia and Ole Miss, but against Florida and Auburn, those 2 teams combined for 72 points. Florida quarterback DJ Langway averaged 37 yards on 7 completions, and they had a freshman running back, Jaden Ball, who ran for 5 touchdowns. Auburn managed 500 total yards, and running back Jarquez Hunter had 278 yards and 2 touchdowns. Makes you wonder how Kentucky might fare against Tennessee's Dylan Sampson, who leads the SEC in rushing and in touchdowns. And finally, Kentucky's offense has really struggled. They're last in the SEC in points per game, they're last in passing offense, and they're 15th in total offense. Their quarterback, Brock Vandegrift, who's a 5-star transfer from Georgia, has struggled as well. He's only averaging 155 yards passing per game. He's only got 6 touchdown passes. He's got 5 interceptions, and he's completing only 55% of his passes. That's not a very good recipe when you go against Tennessee's top-ranked defense. Back to you, John.
Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate the scouting report. When we come back on this show, we've got 15 different people. How about a taste? Just a few of those 15 people telling you just a few of the things we're going to be covering today as we get you ready for Tennessee versus Kentucky tonight at Neyland Stadium.
I'm Paige Dower, and we'll give you 3 reasons why you shouldn't sleep on the Kentucky Wildcats.
I'm David Ubben, and I'll lay out the Vols playoff path.
I'm Ryan Callahan, and I'll tell you about 3 recruits Tennessee visited last week in hopes of adding to its 2025 recruiting class.
And I'm Josh Ward. We have 5 over-under questions to get you ready for tonight's game between Tennessee and Kentucky.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville. The Vols are off to a hot start, so we're rolling out the hottest deals of the year. You can score a 2025 Kia Sportage for $249 a month, or you can drive home a 2024 Kia Sorento for $267 a month. Are you looking to go bigger? You could ride high in style in a 2024 Kia Telluride for $379 a month. And as always, every new Kia comes with Rusty's exclusive 200,000-mile warranty. So draw up the winning play and make your way to Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
For 4 generations, A.G. Hines Company has been a pillar of the Knoxville community. And since Albert Hines Sr. opened our doors back in 1920, we've been supplying do-it-yourselfers with revolutionary products and tools. Manufactured stone is lighter, more cost-effective than traditional stone, featuring greater consistency of material and quicker installation times. Cutting-edge materials and tools at affordable prices. That's what we've provided for more than a century at A.G. Hines Company.
I was coming home and a lady hit me head on. It totaled my car, it fractured my right heel, and it bruised me up really badly. The Garza law firm, they were very compassionate, but yet they were very detailed. They didn't let me down. They never stopped fighting. It helped me regain confidence in law firms. I would definitely recommend the Garza law firm.
The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
A day on the lake is more than just time on the water. It's a memory, a story that can last a lifetime. And no one makes memories like Madisonville Marine. Terrific prices, first-class customer service, and the area's biggest selection of boats, like G3 John boats, Gator Tough. These rugged boats are durable and dependable, season after season. Center or side console, storage boxes. Custom design your boat for your needs. Madisonville Marine. There's no better place to buy a boat.
Chris Smith was once let down by an insurance company, so he became an agent to make sure someone is fighting for you. Shop insurance now. See how Chris can give you peace of mind and save you some money. All insurance is not equal. Trust Chris Smith Insurance.
Every Sunday morning, The Sports Source brings you 90 minutes of honest, intelligent Vols coverage. More analysts, more topics, more fun. The Sports Source, Sundays at 11 on WATE TV6 and WATE.com.
Hard to believe we're already on to week 10 of the college football season. Here's what you can catch right here on Channel 6 today. We open things up with an ACC matchup between Duke and Miami at noon. The Blue Devils are looking to hand the Hurricanes their first loss of the season. Florida clashes with Georgia at 3:30. Vol fans will be Gator fans during this game. Then the nightcap is between Texas A&M and South Carolina. The Aggies have yet to lose an SEC game yet this year. And of course, the Vols collide with Kentucky at 7:45 p.m. Make sure when this game is over to flip over to Channel 6 to catch the SEC wrap-up show where we break down the Tennessee game and much more. John.
Thanks, Reese. Welcome back to Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive. If you're heading to the game tonight, if you're heading over for a tailgate, then you need to go to your local package store, as long as you're 21 and up. Pick up a 4-pack, an 8-pack, or multiple packs of Freshie. It's organic tequila mixed with seltzer. Comes in 3 great flavors, lime, orange, grapefruit. They're fantastic. They're getting terrific reviews online. You'll love them. Freshie. You'll see Freshie at the Bandit Lights Bar, and that's where we're going now with Paige Dower, with Bob Hodge, Vince Ferrara, Dave Hooker for a segment we call The 3 Reasons.
Thanks, John. The Tennessee Vols are huge favorites in this game against the Kentucky Wildcats. And the Wildcats, they look like a mess. But we're still going to give you 3 reasons why you shouldn't sleep on the Wildcats tonight. I think we have to start with how they've looked against some of their best competition they've faced so far, Dave. You look at what they did against Georgia and Ole Miss, specifically against the Bulldogs. They held Carson Beck well below his season average of 297 yards through the air with 160. Same thing on the ground, 103 compared to their season average of 130. And I think when you consider that while it feels like a distant memory with what they've done with those 2 SEC teams, they can turn it on when they need to and when the lights are the brightest.
Well, I think you have 2 teams in which they showed up, and with Ole Miss in particular, they out-physicaled them.
Yeah.
And they matched the physicality of Georgia. So that's a signature of a Mark Stoops team. And I think the other scary thing for Tennessee is Mark Stoops is a very good defensive coach that could be on the hot seat.
Yeah.
So is he willing to take all that he's done previously this year and say, that 3-down lineman look seems to work really well against Tennessee, and I can be multiple in what I do to try to confuse a quarterback who's still very young, Bob?
Well, I mean, if you look at what Mark Stoops can do on defense, look at what Tennessee hasn't been able to do on offense. They haven't been able to run their tempo on a regular basis, which keeps teams basic and what Tennessee's going to be seeing. They haven't been able to throw the ball downfield very well at all. And in SEC play, you've averaged 20 points a game. And when you just average 20 points a game, that means pick six, a scoop and score, a kick return, You have to settle for field goals instead of scoring touchdowns down in the red zone. All those things add up to Tennessee could be into a situation where Kentucky can keep it close.
Yeah, I think Kentucky's best bet is if they're in a position where they're able to force Nico Iamaleava in the passing game to prove it. If they're able to stifle the run game and then you're just kind of one-dimensional trying to get the passing game going, like you said, Bob, I think that probably will be their best chance when they're making Nico Iamaleava uncomfortable, forcing, this down-the-field type of passing, which they say they're getting close to finally capitalizing on. But if they can make it difficult for them, I think that's their best chance.
Yeah, and back to what Dave was talking about with Ole Miss, and it ties into the second point of Tennessee's struggles offensively, is Stoops shrunk that game against Ole Miss. He limited the possessions. They dominated the line of scrimmage, but they shrunk that game, so it made it very difficult for Ole Miss. And so if Tennessee has their struggles, now they have fewer opportunities, then that's going to put some pressure. There's going to be anxiety in the stadium. So it is one way for Kentucky to be able to get in this game. And he went quarterback run game, too. You talk about him saving stuff. Stoops did that against Ole Miss as well.
And I think sometimes they're just confusingly bad. They have these bright spots, and then they just have moments where you're just like, what's going on? Yeah, so I think in a moment where maybe they have a bright spot and you just get a little confused on how it worked in this game is if they get their wide receivers involved in this game. You look at Barron Brown, Dane Key, who has 39 receptions for almost 600 yards, but I think their go-to is definitely Key or Barron Brown. I think if they're able to get them, if Brock Vandergrift can stay upright for longer than 3 seconds, I think that could pose a threat to Tennessee's defense in the pass game specifically, because if there was a area of defense where it's not as good as the other, it might be in the pass game. It's marginal, but I think the pass game is maybe where they could find some success.
Well, I think when we did see some of those holes earlier in the year, it was when they were running zone. They didn't really do that against Alabama. Tim Banks relied on that front four, relied on them showing pressures. I think they'll probably do the same thing and be really aggressive and attack them. So I wonder how much that would limit them, Kentucky's ability. But Brown is the one that I would be the most afraid of because of the return game. He's going to return kicks. If he gets it in the end zone, he'll bring some of those out. So that Tennessee this year has not been as great as they typically are in their coverage. So they've given up more yards in a couple of returns than they have in the entire Heupel era before. So Brown in that return game, that could be another factor, maybe gives Kentucky a little bit of a shot.
And I would add this, going back to Bob's point of the offense. Do we 100% believe Nico Iamaleava has turned the corner? I think most of us say probably, but probably not 100%. Also, Lance Hurd at left tackle, who played better against Alabama. Has he completely let the game come to him, or is he going to lose a defender on his inside shoulder? That puts Nico in a bad position. So I think there's still questions, Bob, with the offense that we don't know.
Oh, I mean, I'm not even at probably as he turned the corner. I mean, we kept talking last year, Joe Milton turning corners. Well, he turned so many corners, he came right back to where he was at the beginning. So I think, quite honestly, Paige, I'm still waiting for Tennessee's offense to say, hey, you're on an upward slope, let alone that you've arrived.
Me too.
Yeah, and I think lastly too, going back to your point, Vince, about the wide receivers, I think if Brock Vandergrift can find an opportunity to stay upright, I think they're taking a sack 9% of the time. It could get a little dicey on what they're able to do.
Yeah, and it may, in a close game, it may only take one bust in coverage to take it to the house. Brown had a 99-yard return against Florida, so he's 5 in his career. He may be the best return man in the country, and he can make yards after the catch as well in offense.
Yeah, it could be interesting to see what they do with him on special teams as well. Well, when we come back, we'll hear from John, Kevin, and Ollie, and they'll discuss what Tennessee really needed to have worked on during their open date when we come back.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville. You hear lots of offers with insane prices, unbelievable trade-in promotions, and crazy gimmicks. But aren't you tired of all that noise? Look, at Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville, our message is simple. We'll beat any dealership's price on any new Kia, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, period. If you don't buy your new Kia on Callahan Drive, you'll pay too much. Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
Safety Systems, East Tennessee's top provider of home automation, security, and life safety systems.
Home and commercial security.
Camera surveillance systems specifically designed for your property. Professional monitoring, complete with emergency and after-hours response and repair. Burglar alarms for all access points. Upgrade your home or business with a single phone call to Safety Systems, East Tennessee's leader in home and commercial security systems for more than 20 years.
Whether you're watching the big game or your favorite movie, Games and Things is your ticket to the best seat in the house. It's time to get rid of that old, worn-out recliner and replace it with home theater seating from Games and Things. We offer the largest selection of quality seats at the best price in East Tennessee. With an endless variety of styles, configurations, and options, you are sure to find that perfect seat. Stop by Games and Things to upgrade your seats today at the corner of Kingston Pike and Lovell Road. Online at ourgameroom.com. Games and Things, 'cause life should be fun.
From family heirlooms to sports memorabilia, protect and showcase your treasures with custom frames and shadow boxes, each with a lifetime guarantee. Express Frame in the Common Shopping Center on North Peters Road.
So many people get their insurance through an app these days, but are you getting the best deal, the coverage you need? And when you really need that coverage, who's fighting for you? All insurance is not equal. Trust Chris Smith Insurance.
3 recruits to watch for Tennessee this weekend. We're going to look back at last week when Tennessee coach Josh Heupel and most of his assistant coaches were on the road ahead of their open date. They saw some important targets along with some of their current commitments. And this has a lot to do with how they might finish their 2025 class. So a few targets to watch down the stretch. Isaiah Campbell, a 4-star defensive lineman, top 50 prospect nationally. We've talked about him before, former Clemson commitment from the state of North Carolina. Tennessee battling for him and in pretty good shape there, coming off his official visit a couple weeks ago for the Alabama game. Tennessee went and saw him last week with defensive line coach Rodney Garner stopping at his school in North Carolina. He still might visit North Carolina in the next couple weeks, but Tennessee in good shape there still with Isaiah Campbell. DeJuan Morris, a running back, committed to USC out of Oakland High School in Murfreesboro. Tennessee remains in contention for him and has a little bit of momentum there. It sounds like he will be attending Tennessee's game tonight against Kentucky. That's a big step forward for the Vols if he does make that visit. But Darrell Sims, Tennessee's running backs coach, was in Murfreesboro last week to see him play. So a noteworthy visit there as Tennessee continues to look for a second running back in this 2025 class. And then Timothy Merritt, a Miami commitment defensive back out of Parker High School in Birmingham. LaVorn Harbin, Tennessee's senior defensive analyst, you hear a lot about him in recruiting, does a lot of work for them with a lot of different players. He's been involved with Merritt for a while, went to see him last week. Tennessee's still trying to flip the longtime Miami commitment, who also took an official visit to Knoxville back in June as Tennessee looks to continue to add to his 2025 class down the stretch. John, back to you.
Thank you, Ryan. We are back at Rusty Wallace Key on Callahan Drive, where they have been celebrating Halloween all week. If you see folks walking around in their costumes, that's why. Get down here to Rusty Wallace Key. I can't guarantee you they'll be in costume, but it's still a great place to buy a car. Back with Ollie Lane, Kevin Simon. This is a segment we call Checking the List. And the list this week is, you've had an open date. If I put you guys in charge over there, if you're like, okay, here's what they need to work on. How would you have spent your open date? Where would your attention have been? What would you have tried to accomplish in this past week? What do you hope Tennessee tried to accomplish this past week?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one on my list, and I'm sure on a lot of other people's lists, watching the Tennessee Vols, the number one issue you got to fix is your offense. You got to understand what's going on with the offense. Where are we not hitting these big deep balls? Where are we not getting success where we used to have it in the past? So I think for them, it was important for this bye week to just kind of take a step back, look at what they've put out on tape for the season, and then look what areas needs to be adjusted, what's falling short of the goal, what needs to be brought up to the next level, improved on, and stuff like that, and just have those conversations within the building to figure out who's kind of, and you don't want to point out who's the issue, but what is the issue, overall arching cause of everything that's been going on with the offense.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, just piggybacking off what Ollie was saying. So, the self-scout is all about where are the issues and then how can we help to fix them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're always going to do a deep dive here. But, the thing that I'd like to see is Nico and the wide receiver group just getting tied down and getting in sync. So, the wide receiver being in sync with those guys, spending extra time, maybe one day running routes on the field, but really more so the film study. Like, have one of the analysts, they got a bunch of folks over there, helping, come up with an all balls reel of passes where maybe things hit right and maybe when things hit wrong, just go through the whole season and then take an hour, 45 minutes to an hour over the course of 2 or 3 days where all these guys are meeting, led by Brew, led by Nico. So where, from an expectation standpoint, Nico's like, hey, here's where I expected you to be on this route, or here's the release that I was expecting to see. And then for the receivers, conversely, can say, hey, Nico, well, this is where we're thinking that you're going to put this ball. So these guys can get tied down and start clicking offensively.
Mm-hmm. The question I have, though, is I don't know how much of it, all of that sounds good. The bottom line has been that Nico has been overshooting guys, and when he doesn't, you have drops.
Mm-hmm.
That just seems like on-field concentration issues when it comes to receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you tweak that in an open date other than just you said you'd have had him running routes one day. I'd have had him out there every day. I mean, to me, it's like run it over and over and over again in my head. Is there a way, though, and I don't want to jump in here. I know you guys have some other stuff you want to throw to, but quickly, how much of that is just getting on the same page with your quarterback? At this stage, if you've played 7 games already, he should know where they're going to be, and he's just overshooting it. They should be able to catch it when it hits them in the hands. I don't know how you improve that, unless it's just someday it clicks. Are we waiting for the day that it clicks?
I mean, I think it's getting to that point. Obviously, when you look back at the past success of the offense, you got Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker was an experienced offensive weapon, knew how to play the game. Nico is growing and developing into that point. And I think part of that, some of the disconnection has just been his development and growth period.
And I don't think getting hit earlier in the year
it's not helping.
His ball started to fly a little bit, which is what you see when a guy's been hit.
Yeah, all quarterbacks, people, even Tom Brady, where they try to bring the pressure up the middle because he don't like getting hit.
No, that's the funny thing.
And it changes things. So, quarterbacks don't like to get hit. Their ability to tolerate it is different across the board. But, quarterbacks don't like getting hit.
And my guess is if Nico develops properly, he's going to be better handling those kind of hits and that kind of pressure as a sophomore than he is a freshman, as a junior, than he is a sophomore, et cetera, et cetera. All right, other points that you wanted to get to. I know I took you off track. I'm sorry. But that's such a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think about it. If you hit a couple deep balls a game, we got a totally different outlook on this team right now.
Oh, yeah.
You throw 14 more points on this offense with what the defense is doing, you may be number 1 in the country right now.
But see, some of the nuances that people don't understand is it's the release of the receiver. Once I beat him on the release, stacking to a point to where I'm not 2 yards away from the sideline. I'm back about 5 yards. We call it on the red line, to where the wide receivers now he's saving room for the catch, right?
Yeah.
The quarterback's told to put it over his shoulder where only his guy can get it. But if he puts it over his shoulder and the wide receiver didn't give him enough space, now that ball's out of bounds. So just getting just the little fine nuances that they can clean up. It's bigger than just running routes and catching balls.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just every time you're in a bye week, the biggest thing, too, is just get everybody healthy. Get your playmakers back, full strength. And, I mean, especially now, this is your last chance to do that before you get into the big open world of the rest of the season, maybe a championship game, maybe playoff season. So it's important now to really focus on getting some of those guys healthy.
Well, especially the tackle positions, which has been a question mark all year. Have those guys been healthy? Are they up to speed?
Mm-hmm.
And another guy that I would have had just sitting in the hot tub all week is Dylan Sampson.
Yeah.
He's already got 6 more carries this year than Jalen Wright had all of last year. I don't know that you can keep that going. He's doing great. I just wouldn't want to ask him to keep that kind of a pace. All right. When we come back, the Wise Guy is going to give you a fun preview of tonight's Tennessee-Kentucky game by the numbers. So get your gambling apps out. Come on back on the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff.
A day on the lake is more than just time on the water. It's a memory, a story that can last a lifetime. And no one makes memories like Madisonville Marine. Terrific prices, first-class customer service, and the area's biggest selection of boats, like Hurricane deck boats. Perfecting fun on the water for more than 45 years with innovative and incredibly versatile designs. Experience freedom, laughter, and adventure on the water with Hurricane. Madisonville Marine. There's no better place to buy a boat.
I see Marco's role in the community as somebody that people can look up to.
Marcos Garza is very thoughtful. He pays attention to the needs of the people in the community.
He's somebody that's very unselfish, somebody that's going to always be there.
Marcos Garza will work as hard as he can to get the best results for you.
In the future, no matter where I'm playing, no matter what the team I'm playing for, I'll always be on Garza's team.
The Garza Law Firm is Mama Zizi approved.
The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville. The Vols are off to a hot start, so we're rolling out the hottest deals of the year. You can score a 2025 Kia Sportage for $249 a month, or you can drive home a 2024 Kia Sorento for $267 a month. Are you looking to go bigger? You could ride high in style in a 2024 Kia Telluride for $379 a month. And as always, every new Kia comes with Rusty's exclusive 200,000-mile warranty. So draw up the winning play and make your way to Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
We're just days away from the College Football Playoff Committee releasing its first rankings of the 2024 season. So if you're Tennessee, what should you be looking for? Who should you be rooting for? Quite simply, everybody that you've played. The bad news for Tennessee is they had 2 wins earlier in the season that came against top 25 teams that are no longer going to be top 25 wins in the committee's eyes. NC State, not in the top 25 anymore. They have struggled. Oklahoma obviously struggled as well. They're on the top 25. So at this point, Tennessee's best win is Alabama. It's also their only top 25 win. So what would you need? It would help if Alabama would keep winning and that win stays a top 10 win. And everybody you play in the future and in the past, the more wins they rack up, the better chance Tennessee has of making the playoff if they lose to Georgia. If Tennessee wins out, they're getting in the playoff. If they lose to Georgia or lose a game at some point the rest of the season, there'll be a lot of moving parts. They'll still have a decent chance, but ultimately, your wins are tied to how those teams do, and it only helps your resume every time a team that you beat wins. So if you're Tennessee, look at the teams you beat and root hard for them every weekend the rest of the way.
Thanks, David, and welcome back to Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive. If you want to make your house the envy of the neighborhood, the place where your kids want to hang out, the place where your neighbors want to come over, then you need to get to Games and Things, because what they've got there at Games and Things, you can get a poker table, you can get a shuffleboard table, you can get things as small as dartboards and boss toss tables, you can get things as big as a jukebox. There's all kinds of stuff at Games and Things. That's why we went down and loaded up the Games and Things arena, which you're going to see now, with all kinds of stuff that we found at Games and Things. You can match what we've done or top it. Let's go now to the Games and Things arena with Josh Ward, Tyler Ivins, Chuck Cavaleris for a segment we call The Wise Guys.
Thanks, Sean. All right, guys, we have 5 over-under questions for tonight's game to help preview Tennessee against Kentucky. I'll get us started with question number 1. Kentucky averages 146.3 pass yards per game versus Power 5 foes. That's worst in the SEC. Over-under, Kentucky going for 146.5 pass yards tonight. Over-under on that number.
4 quarters, $146.5. So if I'm doing quick math here, you're looking at just over 35 to 38 yards per quarter. I mean, yeah, that seems like that it's doable, but for whatever reason, I'm still going to lean no. I think they're going to try to play the Mark Stoops game, run it down your throat, and they're going to continue to get Mark Stoops prizes, as my co-host would say. So I think this is just under the number. They're in the 140, 144 range, but not 147.
Yeah, and I think this has been the most disappointing aspect of one of the Mark Stoops team. You finally thought you were going to get a quarterback that was going to be able to at least complete some passes. I can see him completing some passes for no gain. So, no.
Yeah, that's the thing. Tennessee's defense has been great in stopping yards after the catch.
Right, and on the road with the crowd noise and everything else, no, unless they hit a really big play, there's no way this goes over.
The reason I would say over is because I think they could get some yards that don't really count for much in the second half if Tennessee's able to build a big lead and Kentucky's in throw-only mode.
Yeah.
But I think Tennessee's defense will be locked in. I'll say under on Kentucky's pass yard number.
Gentlemen, over the last 4 SEC games, the Volunteers have averaged 20 points in regulation. So, over-under. Does Tennessee reach 30 tonight with the mark set at 29.5? Chuck Cavaleris.
Yes, I think they do. And I think there's the chance that it's going to be closer to a blowout. And I think Tennessee's going to be able to get some score and some spurts, maybe even get some points other than offense in this kind of game. And with the dark mode and getting a crowd into it, yeah, I think they do. I think this is a breakout type game.
I think it's a breakout opportunity. Kentucky's defense has allowed it to stay in some games, even in the month of October when they went 0 for 3. The defense kept them in an opportunity, but not against Florida. And I think Tennessee will have a chance to run the ball like Florida did, maybe with even better success. So I think this is a breakout opportunity. I will go over 29.5 points for Tennessee.
You boys realize every week we do this is the opportunity, doesn't happen.
We're due for the opportunity to come through.
Because we're due, I'll take the over. I'm not going to tell you what my Tennessee total team points are going to be because if you do it 4 consecutive games, we're going to have to start rearranging some shares, Chuck.
I know that it's 30 plus. I know that now.
I do. Yeah, it is 30 plus.
Yes.
But it might not be far off from the 30 plus.
And who is your breakout running back?
Yeah, this is the Cam Selden reference for today, right?
Speaking of running backs, Dylan Sampson has carried the ball 144 times through 7 games, 6 more than Jalen Wright last year.
Ooh.
Over under 21.5 carries tonight.
Come on.
Well, he's fresh off the bye week. I would like to see Deshaun Bishop and Cam Selden get some opportunities.
Love it.
But I also know Florida and Auburn the last 2 weeks had great success running the football. I think that's a great number. I'll go slightly over because I think we get a lot of Dylan Sampson to start out the game.
27 carries for Dylan Sampson tonight. Accelerator down. Just mash that thing into the floorboard. Yes, absolutely. This guy's on pace right now. You don't think they read social media and hear whatever? Why isn't he on the Heisman? But Ashton Genty, but Jalen Wright. Floorboard, cram it, jam that sucker into the ground. 27 carries.
And to me, it's a lot of this is about getting in rhythm with the running game, right? That once you get it, you get some yards. Seems to get it again, get some yards. So yeah, I think he is. And then you get closer to the goal line, we know he's going to get it then, right?
So we all went over. I hope we're wrong. I hope for him, for Tennessee.
Goodness gracious, yes.
Yeah, because there are 4 more games to go in the month of November, and he is so important for Tennessee. So he can get his yardage without going over that number, but we'll see what happens. All right, guys, 4th question, a couple more to go. Kentucky is allowing 198 passing yards per game in SEC games. UT averages 179 passing yards per game. Will Nico Iamaleava finally throw for 200 in an SEC game tonight? Is tonight the night, Tyler?
I'm going to lean yes because I think that they're going to, back to what I just mentioned about, I think they're going to be so prepared for just Dylan Sampson in the box, Dylan Sampson, more in the box, that Nico is going to have a big play moment, whether it is finding Brew for the first time in the end zone, whether it's more connections with Dante Thornton, whether it's more with Chris Brazzell. I think that's a good number. I think that's the best number we've had so far this morning. I'll say yes, and I'll take the over. I think over for Dylan Sampson. I think over for Nico Iamaleava as well.
I'm kind of believing when you see it right now. I'm going to take under. And I think it's a good number. I think he's going to get around that 185 maybe. But I'm still going to wait until I see this to say yes.
Well, his rush yardage combined with his passing, I think, would put him over 200.
Right.
That's not the question. It's simply through the air. I'm going to lean slightly under. I think his legs will be involved in what they're doing as well. Again, just running against Kentucky, they'll find success. So I think Tennessee will hit a big pass play, maybe 2 down the field. But I think they'll be efficient in a lot of ways. I'll say slightly under the 200 number. But this is a good chance tonight to get there.
Last one, gentlemen. Miles Kisselman's last catch was against Arkansas. Mike Matthews was against Kent State. More catches tonight, the tight end or the freshman wide receiver?
Chuck, what say you? And I'll tell you, we're short on time here, so we'll go quicker with this answer.
Tight end. I just think it's time to get the ball to tight ends, really do.
I do as well. We've been getting that question on the radio a lot.
Yes.
So I will also go tight end.
Tight end. This is pretty short and sweet. Again, another got to see it to believe it. Mike Matthews is a believe it then see it.
12 personnel, baby.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe we have reverse jinx for the fans, though, on the Matthews side. We'll see. Somebody's due, I think, in that regard. Speaking of the offense, how has Josh Heupel attacked Mark Stoops' defenses over the years? We'll come back. Ollie Lane will break that down next.
Whether you're watching the big game or your favorite movie, Games and Things is your ticket to the best seat in the house. It's time to get rid of that old, worn-out recliner and replace it with home theater seating from Games and Things. We offer the largest selection of quality seats at the best price in East Tennessee. With an endless variety of styles, configurations, and options, you are sure to find that perfect seat. Stop by Games and Things to upgrade your seats today at the corner of Kingston Pike and Lovell Road. Online at ourgameroom.com. Games and Things, 'cause life should be fun.
Safety Systems, East Tennessee's top provider of home automation, security, and life safety systems.
Home automation.
Our expert technicians can turn your home into a smart home, allowing you to control and monitor everything from lighting and climate to entertainment systems, security systems, and even appliances, all from your phone or tablet. Upgrade your home with a single phone call to Safety Systems, East Tennessee's leader in home automation for more than 20 years.
Chris Smith was once let down by an insurance company, so he became an agent to make sure someone is fighting for you. Shop insurance now. See how Chris can give you peace of mind and save you some money. All insurance is not equal. Trust Chris Smith Insurance.
From works of art to family photos, enhance the beauty and protect your memories with custom frames, museum-quality glass, and guaranteed craftsmanship. Express Frame in the Common Shopping Center on North Peters Road.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville. You hear lots of offers with insane prices, unbelievable trade-in promotions, and crazy gimmicks. But aren't you tired of all that noise? Look, at Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville, our message is simple. We'll beat any dealership's price on any new Kia, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, period. If you don't buy your new Kia on Callahan Drive, you'll pay too much. Rusty Wallace Key of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
All right, Captain's Corner this week, you're playing Kentucky. They are a rival, but what do? How do you handle this as a captain? Two ways to approach this. The first one is, hey, you dreamed about playing for an SEC championship and getting into the 12-man playoff to win a national title. That's all still in front of you. In the next 40 days, you're going to know if those dreams come to reality. And the way that you do that is you go out and you execute right now. You tell your teammates what lies in front of them. Don't go out like you did in the last bye week and lay an egg against Arkansas. That hurt you. You've got a chance to have a do-over. Go get Kentucky. The second thing, I mentioned it before, it's a rival. Kentucky is in the corner. They're backed up. Nobody believes in them. That's when teams are dangerous. Their backs are against the wall. They're going to come in and they're going to throw everything at you. You got dark mode. You've got the excitement of the crowd. Go out and execute. Put them in the place where they should be and go out and make everything that still lies in front of you happen. You've got a great opportunity. Don't waste it. Go make it happen. John, back to you.
Welcome back into the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. We're at Rusty Wallace Key on Callahan Drive. We are breaking down the Solid Lane. Kevin Simon back with you here. We're going to break down Tennessee's game plan versus Kentucky here in a second. This segment is called What's the Game Plan? And it's brought to you by our friends at the Garza Law Firm. Folks, if you find yourself in any kind of a legal jam, make sure that your game plan involves a phone call to Garza. Marcos Garza has been in the community for a long time. He's got a tremendous track record. You can check out their website. So many people have great things to say about Marcos and his entire team. You would be one of them if you have to turn to an attorney in a time of need. That's the attorney to turn to. Marcos Garza and the Garza Law Firm. All right, as I said, what's the game plan? Ollie, you've been over there the last couple of years, and let me just, before anybody emails me, we're not giving away any trade secrets here. This would be the kind of stuff that Kentucky coaches have on tape already, just based off what Josh Heupel's done in the past. But what I want you to do is tell me how Josh Heupel has approached Mark Stoops' defense, because, and we'll get to Stoops' defense in a second. But how has he approached it? What has been the mantra inside, as opposed to just run the ball, hit some deep shots? How does he view this defense of Kentucky, and what do we think we're going to see today, based off what you did when you were over there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you're going into the Kentucky game, you always got to look. Mark Stoops is going to put out an elite defense at some type of level every year, and he's done that. I mean, through the past few years that I've been over there, you've seen him come out in defensive structures that are similar to like a 3-4 kind of look. You got the odd front, bring out the outside linebacker, rush body to hang out on the outside. So a lot of the ways of which Heupel and them wanted to go in and attack that brought us success. We're going to see a lot of pulls, a lot of counters, a lot of power, try to get it knife up inside of the defense, wash everything down, get it out of the way. You're going to see some big shots, but I think majority of your pass game is going to revolve around that short game. You know, a lot of time, especially in 21, we used a ton of those wide receiver screens, bubble screens, and then even in 23 last year, there was a lot of the crossing routes. Obviously, we had some of the deep shots. But then, I mean, obviously, filtered in throughout all of that film of last year, you saw all the pull, the counters, the power. There was a ton of power that we ran last year, and it was very successful. So I'd imagine they'd probably go back to something similar to that kind of attack towards them.
Kevin, thoughts?
Yeah, so when you face a Stoops defense, Brad White does a heck of a job. It's a lot of split safety to where they're playing 4 over 3 or 3 over 2 to try to minimize some of the deep shots down the field. And then they do a really good job of playing kind of what some other people have done, but they're 4 eyes. They're hard to knock off the ball. So they can actually play the run with lighter numbers. Yeah. And that's where some of the pin and pulls go down and around. Instead of trying to run your zone game and knock these guys off the ball, which is difficult to do, you know, and firm edges, they restrict the run game. So now, all right, we're going to go down and around and get it that way. We've seen Dylan Sampson and them do some of this, you know, against Arkansas, against Florida, some of those different folks. But definitely believe that we'll see a good bit of that. And then they get exotic on third down. You'll have the 2 linebackers in the A gaps, and they're bringing people you don't know where they're coming from. I feel like they do a good job just disguising things. So they present some problems from a defensive standpoint to an offense.
Well, what I was going to ask you is, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the switch from Nick Saban to Kalen DeBoer. When it was Nick Saban, you wouldn't have seen him go to that 3-3-5 that so many teams are throwing out there because his defense is his defense. Yeah. It does what it does, and he trusts in it. Where's Mark Stoops on that scale? Is he a guy that you may see some of this 3-3-5 that everybody else has tried to throw at you? Or is he a guy who, no, I do this, and I'm relying on this, and we'll be fine doing this?
Yeah, I think Mark Stoops is a guy this is what we do. I've had success with it in all my other stops in the past, so this is what we're going to run. This is what we're going to do. I don't know if at some point in time in his tenure at Kentucky, if he hits a desperation spot where he starts changing stuff up, but I don't know if that time has really come yet for them because, I mean, they're still having a lot of success with their defense. I mean, obviously, offensive struggles aren't going to make your defense pop off on the charts on different news stations and stuff. But, I mean, they play good defense over there, and he trusts what his defense is able to do.
Well, I mean, his defense went toe-to-toe with Georgia earlier this year. His defense won at Ole Miss. Held Ole Miss, I think, to 1 of 10 on third down there in Oxford.
Yeah, that's one of the top 5 most explosive offenses in all college football.
Yeah, and it's similar to Tennessee's in a lot of ways.
No doubt.
So I know everyone's looking at what Kentucky's done the last month. It hasn't been great. But you go back to that, they do have the ability to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, no doubt. But I mean, I think injuries have plagued this team, siphoned some of the juice that you saw early in the season. Hopefully, from a Tennessee standpoint, some of the deep shots that they take, and I think they need to continue to move Nico in the pocket. Like, just a steady diet of him just sitting back in the pocket like it's sitting duck. It's no good against some of these guys, especially with our guy Walker, number 0, who's a tough assignment. He was a tough assignment, you know. So, and my guy here, you know, knows a little something about that. So, you know, hopefully we can go ahead and hit some deep shots. But I think getting Nico on the move, and hopefully when they studied this bye week, they came to that same conclusion. Move the pocket, take some shots.
Design some runs for him, which he did in the
QB-friendly
second
throws,
half against Bama.
QB design runs,
Yeah.
and let's get him going. Let's get him settled in the game early.
Yeah, very good. Okay. Be interesting to see how Tennessee handles that this afternoon. I think you got it this evening. You got a good preview there from Ollie. When we come back, what would you feel about 15 score predictions for tonight's game? Because that's what we've got, 15. Come on back on the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. We'll tell you what the outcome tonight will be.
For 4 generations, A.G. Hines Company has been a pillar of the Knoxville community. And since Albert Hines Sr. opened our doors back in 1920, we've been supplying do-it-yourselfers with revolutionary products and tools. With Nudura insulated concrete forms, your project will be both rock solid and more energy efficient than steel or wood structures. Cutting-edge materials and tools at affordable prices. That's what we've provided for more than a century at A.G. Hines Company.
A day on the lake is more than just time on the water. It's a memory, a story that can last a lifetime. And no one makes memories like Madisonville Marine. Terrific prices, first-class customer service, and the area's biggest selection of boats, like Skeeter bass boats. For more than 75 years, generations of anglers have trusted Skeeter, the best engineered boats on the water. Ensure a smooth, dry, safe trip to your favorite fishing hole. Madisonville Marine. There's no better place to buy a boat.
Hey folks, it's Jake from Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville. The Vols are off to a hot start, so we're rolling out the hottest deals of the year. You could score a 2025 Kia Sportage for $249 a month, or you could drive home a 2024 Kia Sorento for $267 a month. Are you looking to go bigger? You could ride high in style in a 2024 Kia Telluride for $379 a month. And as always, every new Kia comes with Rusty's exclusive 200,000-mile warranty. So draw up the winning play and make your way to Rusty Wallace Kia of Knoxville, I-75 at Callahan Drive.
From family heirlooms to sports memorabilia, protect and showcase your treasures with custom frames and shadow boxes, each with a lifetime guarantee. Express Frame in the Common Shopping Center on North Peters Road.
Every Sunday morning, The Sports Source brings you 90 minutes of honest, intelligent Vols coverage. More analysts, more topics, more fun. The Sports Source, Sundays at 11 on WATE TV6 and WATE.com.
Welcome back to Rusty Wallace Kia on Callahan Drive for the Sports Source Saturday Kickoff. This is our prediction segment, and every week our predictions are brought to you by Chris Smith Insurance. Chris is my insurance agent. He does a tremendous job because he can basically provide 2 different types of protection for you. One, he's a farmer's agent, so you get those top quality policies that are options for you. But if you don't like any of those, he's also an independent agent, which means he's got even more opportunities to help you find the right package for you. Chris Smith Insurance. All right, let's get to the predictions in a segment we call Who, How, and Why.
I'm going to go with Tennessee 27, Kentucky 10. I think this is the game Tennessee wins comfortably because it's just the better team. Kentucky clearly has some issues right now. They've had some issues offensively, not playing their best. I think the Vols gradually pull away, get their offense going a little bit, but still not the offensive explosion fans are kind of waiting for.
All right, guys, prediction time. What happens tonight against Tennessee and Kentucky? I will say 35-14 Tennessee. I do think Kentucky's going to be able to get on the board, obviously with a couple of scores there, but I think Tennessee is going to cruise to a victory. I think they will control the game through 4 quarters.
Depending on where you're shopping, 16-point spread, 17-point spread, right. 34-17, just enough to get past that number. Nicely done. You didn't hit the same number.
There you go.
How about 31-13 Tennessee?
All right.
It's going to be the dark mode, and it's really going to be a long night for Kentucky, is what I'm saying.
Kentucky has had some success slowing down running games. You'll get to know Deion Walker pretty well this weekend, but they don't have the offense to keep up. Give me Tennessee 24, Kentucky 13.
It's safe to say that Dylan Sampson will have another touchdown in this one, but I think Tennessee's offense clicks coming out of the bye. The Vols hit at least 4 deep balls in this contest. Tennessee dismantles the Kentucky defense and wins 45-14.
I'll take Tennessee to win this game 28-10. I think finally we see Nico Imaliava and the pass game finally get to that next phase of what they're trying to implement. You look to the game against Alabama, 4 drops. I think that shows us that he's a little bit more on target with his wide receivers and that Tennessee defense. At this point, they're no joke. So yeah, I'll take Tennessee.
I'm going to go Tennessee 24-10 because Chuck Cavallera said 13.5 points on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
I went with Chuck. And I don't trust Tennessee's offense, but I do trust Tennessee's defense to keep Kentucky under 10, maybe even less than that.
All right, so everybody's going 10. I'm going to go with Tennessee 31-6. And Tennessee will get a couple of touchdowns in the first half. It's not going to suddenly go back to the beginning of the year, but they will break the seal on that a little bit and just methodically get to the finish line and win.
Well, you make it tough. You give me a hard time with 10. I'll go 35-11. And I think Tennessee's defense sets up a score or scores themselves, and you'll see Tennessee's offense be responsible for about 28 points. So I'll go 35-11 just to be different.
I've got Tennessee beating Kentucky 30-13. Tennessee's defense hasn't allowed 20 points in the first 7 games for the first time since 1969, and Kentucky's offense ranks among the worst in the FBS. Looks like a mismatch in favor of Tennessee's defense.
All right, score prediction for Kentucky. Tennessee scores points in the first half, believe it or not. I think Tennessee's going to come out and try and run the ball. Kentucky's going to load up on them, see if Nico can really start throwing the ball around. I think Tennessee walks away with this one late in the third quarter. Tennessee 31, Kentucky 17.
All right, that's everybody else's predictions. I'm going to go 24-9 Tennessee. I've bounced back and forth between 24, 27 points all week. This could be the game. This could absolutely, you heard people talking about, well, it's a breakout game. Could be. I just think after 7 weeks of seeing an inconsistent offense, I think you're going to probably be inconsistent the rest of the way. This may be the game where you hit a couple of deep shots, but if I go by past history, it's not. So I'm going to say 24-9. I think Tennessee's defense continues to smother a one-dimensional Kentucky offense, though. Kevin, what are you doing?
31-17, big win for Tennessee. Feel like we get rolling on offense finally. Hit some of the big shots. Going up there, it's always cold, right? Those guys are dirty. From the offensive line up there's dirty. So, so hopefully we get a big win. But from my standpoint, I always felt like I need to have my lunch pail ready for those guys because they're going to have theirs.
Yeah, and that's – he knows the games at Neyland. We were just talking before the segment about the Kentucky rivalry. So when you say it's cold up there, I don't want people going, oh, it's here tonight.
I'm just saying.
Yes, in general, that's a cold weather game.
Yes.
And they play rough.
Yes, they do.
All right, very good.
It's like little brother. He's going to try to bite your hand. He might even try to hit you in the nose. It's like you got to be ready for anything playing these guys.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm going pretty similar with you guys. 24-10. I think the Vols win. But, I'm going to be honest, I feel like I've already seen this game play out before in 2019. Very similar scenarios that were going on. Offense with some struggles. Kentucky with no offense, good defense. We had a pretty good defense. I think it's going to play out somewhat similar. I feel like Kentucky's going to try to hold the ball, keep it away from us, and we're just going to have to take advantage every time offensively that we get the ball. But 24-10, I think the Vols get a big win.
It is a massive game for Kentucky. For them, this can save their season. And as someone who grew up in Middlesboro, trust me, Kentucky hates Tennessee. Where do you guys, just real quick, one-word answer here. Is this ranks below Alabama, Georgia, Florida in terms of rivalry? Is it above Vanderbilt, equal, below?
Absolutely above Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Always felt like I'd be out by halftime with Vanderbilt.
Very good. Yeah, this is Tennessee's oldest, most played rival. So should be a good one this evening when the Big Blue play the Big Orange. I just wish there was a beer barrel involved. We will be breaking it down tomorrow on Sports Source. That's 11 a.m. VFL Mike Stoll, who you just saw, he'll be back with us in studio along with a dozen other people. So we will see you 11 a.m. tomorrow to break down the Tennessee-Kentucky game. Enjoy yourself tonight. See you tomorrow.